Wrenn used to think that no matter where she went, she'd always be home. Hard to argue otherwise for dryads. So often, home meant a tree they'd never leave. For her, things are a little more complicated. The trees with which she's bonded cannot survive the process for long. And she herself has matters to attend to all over the multiverse. But she remained convinced that no matter where in the multiverse she ended up, she'd never be far from another place to live. Until she arrived on New Phyrexia. In all her days, she could never have imagined a place like this, scoured of all natural life, at once deathly quiet and filled with the artificial chittering of machines. If you asked any dryad to imagine their worst nightmare, they'd speak of a place like this. Wrenn hates it here. And she hates most of all that this is where she's going to die. It isn't dying that scares her. Unlike Chandra, who carries Wrenn's frail head and torso toward the invasion tree, Wrenn isn't afraid of the spears and barbs the Phyrexians unleash in their direction. The gouts of flame and molten ore that fire over her shoulder, some from Chandra, some from Koth, do not frighten her either. If anything, she wishes that she could join them, but she hardly has the strength to keep the fires inside of her at bay. Using them against others would jeopardize everything they've come here to do. That is what truly frightens Wrenn. The possibility that she may not be able to do what everyone is relying upon her to do. The invasion tree does not sing to her anymore. He hasn't said a word the entire time she's been here, not even earlier when she nearly managed to graft herself onto him. If he rejects her, then they have no way of controlling him. No way of reaching Teferi, no way of stopping this onslaught. And they will need Teferi if they are to stop any of this. Of that, Wrenn is certain. From here, jostling with each step, she can see the coming onslaught. Thousands of Phyrexians, with thousands more being assembled on the spot. Metal shines on each. Not in the way of a knight's gallant armor, but in the way of churning forges and shining needles. And though there are more eyes staring back at her than there are leaves in a forest, she sees no life in any of them. This place should not exist, she says. Tell me about it. Chandra incinerates a spear before it can hit them. We just have to hold on a little longer. Her breathing is ragged, her steps uneven. She's struggling to hold Wrenn up. Wrenn wasn't certain Chandra would ever walk again after the fall they took. Human bodies are delicate things. Nissa's vines caught them before they splattered against the ground, but sometimes the fall itself was bad, no matter how you landed. Yet Chandra stands and fights, no matter how much pain she must be in. Are you in need of mending? Wrenn asks. I'm fine, is the pyromancer's sharp response. A rain of needles comes toward them. Koth levitates the metal beneath their feet to a shield over their heads. Needles spark as they bounce off its surface. Some find new homes in the backs of Mirrans that Koth couldn't cover. He curses, the sound like quenching a blade. Can't keep this up forever. It won't be forever, Chandra says. Once Wrenn's at the tree, everything will be fine. Except that it will take time to graft onto the tree, to speak with it, to search for her old friend. And that's supposing she's able to do any of that at all. Will this body of hers hold out long enough? There is so little left of her. Chandra is clutching her like a wayward pet. In the face of the invasion tree's mighty form, she is less than an acorn. If there were others, if she had her sisters with her, maybe. A scream tears her from her thoughts. Wrenn comes back into reality and sees a sharp tendril shoot through the air over Chandra's shoulder. The scream's coming from up ahead. The other end of the tendril's gone clean through Malira's stomach. You should have taken our offer, comes a familiar voice. Nissa. A barbed vine slices straight toward them. Chandra sucks in a breath. The fireball she sends back at Nissa flickers and fades midway through. She curses, and in an act of desperation rolls to avoid impact. Barbs pierce the ground like spears, standing just as tall as any of the warriors. If one of those had pierced them. Got your back, Koth shouts. He flings a craggy boulder at Nissa. One of her slicing vines splits in two, then throws both halves back at the rebels. Chandra burns one in midair, groaning with effort. Her shaky breathing's becoming a rattle. Wrenn wishes there were more she could do to help, but staying awake and keeping herself alive will have to do. A couple dozen Mirrans are all that remains of the fighting force, and the only ones in the way of Nissa's unstoppable charge. As Chandra makes a break for the tree, Koth, Malira, and the others cover their escape. Hard enough when it was only Phyrexian soldiers with which they had to contend. Near impossible in the face of a killing machine like Nissa. Vines and blades alike slice through the flesh as easily as paper. "Koth!" shouts Malira. Blood spills like sap into the hand she's using to cup her wound. "Koth, we need a barricade!" He glances over toward her. Even Wrenn can read the concern on his face.
Continue reading on magic.wizards.com/story or click the link in the description.